At the end of the 13th century, following the accomplishments of his father Ertugrul, Prince Osman I led a series of raids accompanied by Turkish soldiers known as Ghazis to form the Ottoman Empire. The empire was primarily occupied by the Turks, but included Arabs, Kurds, Greeks, Armenians, and various other ethnic minorities. Despite this, it was formally identified as being Islamic Caliphate and was ruled by a monarch known as a sultan. Religious minorities, such as Christians and Jews, also made up a portion of the population. Between the 15th and 19th century, the Ottoman military structure increased in strength significantly. This success was attributed to the Devshirme system. Due to expansion and empowerment of state, the system itself was easily imposed, resulting in the collection of many children from the Balkans. This territory inhabited by Christians was a century-long conquest for the Ottoman Empire that began with the taking of Adrianople in 1362. The implementation of the Devshirme method served as a direct contradiction to the millet system, which was the administrative framework utilized by the Ottoman Empire to grant various religious minorities a level of proper autonomy to govern their own communities and affairs.
The Devshirme system entailed the practice of levying a blood tax. This meant the collection of young Christian males from the Balkans and other Christian minorities to be drafted into serving as soldiers, court officers, administrative officers, and royal pages within the Sultan's house. Serving as soldiers meant becoming a Janissary. The Janissary Corps was established by Murad I. Janissaries became an elite infantry force with loyalties solely devoted to the Sultan. As the Jewish could not be soldiers and Muslims were forbidden by law from being enslaved, they consisted primarily of Christian boys, often from Constantinople. Devshirme, formally meaning blood tax, required taking boys fit and able, which led Murad I to institute an initial tax on 1/5 of the population. These children would be polled from between 1383 and 1387. Afterwards, the initial tax would grow. The Ottoman Empire had a governmental responsibility to its Christian citizens, yet proceeded to mistreat them and deprive them of their rights. Devshirme became known as a glorified method of forced labor. They began as guards but evolved into the Sultan's standing army, Christian boys being conscripted and forced to convert to Islam. Local judges and spahi supervised the commission's call for the males of the village to be paraded out. Upon the day of recruitment, they were clad in red and marched out before the recruiting officers, stripped, examined for bodily defects, and then circumcised. Boys between the ages of 8 and 20 were sought out. Boys 15 to 18 were preferred, particularly if they were of medium height, remarked upon as intelligent, strong, and handsome. In such instances, scars from previous attempts of disfigurement were disregarded. The segregation brought by Devshirme attire would not end with the exhaustive red. It was a precedent reflected in the military attire which distinguished the Janissaries from the common people.
By 1528, their numbers had increased to 48,000 and gradually went on to exceed 100,000, forced to form their own language called jargon, which even created a term modernized by society to the present day. It referred to the mixture of Turkish, Arabic, and Persian in order for them to understand a world they were thrown into. Some families married their boys off before the age of 12 to prevent them from being taken away. Married men could not legally be recruited. Some resorted to disfiguring their boys so as to make them weak and unsuitable for war. Countless clawed at their parental rights, desperate to keep their sons. Those who were taken endured strenuous military training intended to teach them the two core attributes of the Janissaries: strict discipline and order. Individual rights were taken from them. They were forbidden from marrying, growing a beard, and pursuing skills other than war. While living with the family chosen by the Sultan for them, they would learn to speak Turkish and practice the traditions of the Ottoman Empire. Monastic circumstances of celibacy were enforced. Overseen by eunuchs, they refined their gifts in specialized schools. Such lifestyles were meant to keep them loyal. Christian minorities were told the Devshirme system allowed enhanced social mobility by presenting opportunities for lower socioeconomic classes to contribute their sons to a higher cause where they would hold high-ranking positions. One individual disagreed with this ideology. George Kastrioti Skanderbeg, called the Albanian prince for his Emathian prince father, was traded to the Ottoman Empire and forced to become a Janissary. However, he abandoned his post at 25 years old, returning to Albania where he gathered troops of his own to lead crusades against the Ottoman Empire on behalf of Christendom. Ottoman rulers, threatened by the growing power of the Janissaries, chose to occupy them by intentionally causing foreign conflict. This resulted in a series of bloody endeavors.
There was the Battle of Kosovo in 1389. Then there was the Battle of Nicopolis, which was a major battle during the reign of Bayezid I in 1396, featuring the Janissaries at the front lines. After that was the Battle of Angora in 1402 against the Timurid Empire. In 1444, the Battle of Varna took place, signifying the Balkans conceding to the Ottoman Empire fully upon the failure of the final crusade, which could not defeat the Janissaries. In 1449, feeling submerged in corruption, the Janissaries rebelled at the appointment of Vizier Koko David Pasha due to the previous misgivings of the former vizier. Despite Murad II's attempts at negotiation, weeks of effort resulted in a new vizier appointment.
In 1453, the fall of Constantinople, a 55-day siege led by Mehmed II, resulted in the ending of the Byzantine Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire. Constantinople became what is known today as Istanbul, a world-renowned Turkish trading center. Gaining a shared border with Europe, clashes between the Islamic Empire and Russians, Austrians, Venetians, Polish, and others in support of the predominantly Christian continent became inevitable.
Another rebellion occurred in 1511, similar to the one of 1449. Following that was the Battle of Calderon in 1514. In 1516, the Ottoman Empire defeated Mamluk armies at Marj-Dabik. In 1521, Janissaries demanded a cancellation of reforms, which Sultan Selim I agreed to. Then there was the Battle of Mohawks in 1526.
In 1618, the young Sultan Osman II attempted to replace Janissary troops, resulting in his assassination and his being replaced by Murad IV. In 1683, the Siege of Vienna prompted the beginning of European powers' more formal dislike for the Ottoman Empire. This was solidified with the Polish hussars marching onto the battlefield.
The Great Turkish War followed and dragged on for 15 years, keeping the Janissaries away from home. The event regarded as the Edirne Incident, or the Patrona Halil Rebellion, occurred in 1703, when Janissaries killed Sultan Mustafa II, leading to the installation of Sultan Ahmed II. From 1730 to 1736, the Ottoman-Persian War pinned the Ottoman Empire against the Safavid Empire over the Caucasus region. In 1807, Janissaries exerted efforts to overthrow Sultan Selim III by eliminating the supporters held by him in Istanbul.
Over time, Janissary units became less effective compared to European armies. A cause was rich influential Muslims sending their children to become Janissaries, breeding corruption and turning a focal point to political agendas rather than military ones. These children did not undergo the proper military training, and European industrialization left Janissaries without technical superiority. In 1826, Mehmed II considered the auspicious event to be a final solution to the overwhelming influence of the Janissaries. The formation of westernized troops led to the Janissaries revolting, and Sultan Mehmed II declared war, dispatching the Janissaries. Despite many being killed, some survived but were caught up to towards the end of World War I. At this time, photographic cameras were coming into existence, providing a cruel documentation of the end of those impacted by the Devshirme system. The Armenian Genocide, the event which decimated the remaining Christians of the Ottoman Empire, symbolized the brutality of the methods implemented by the Young Turks government to hunt down remaining Janissaries and/or Christians. With no limitation on age or gender, public executions marked the conclusion of the Ottoman Empire, characterizing the loss of the empire's soul upon condemning its citizens with the Devshirme system. Governmental responsibilities to the people were compromised, parental rights were desecrated, individual rights were stolen.